And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Before even trying it out, I was like, if I want to be as good as I can, like that's what I need to do. Like, it's funny because like I see like new kids come into the group sometimes and they like think they know what they're doing and like they don't listen to anyone. I was like, oh, that wasn't me. I was just like, whatever they were doing, like they're the best, that's where I want to be. I'm just copying them. When marathon blocks aren't going that well for me, when I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, not every marathon block has to be exactly the same. That's what you're trying to do. Like, you're trying to see how much pain you can take and how fast you can run with that pain.
Welcome back to 5 Miles Easy. On the show today, we're joined by two-time Olympian and Oceania record holder in the marathon, Brett Robinson. Brett started running seriously as a junior and has been making world teams since his teenage years. He's had an incredibly long and impressive career, first as a track athlete competing in the 5K, then moving up to the marathon. I'm out here in Font Romeu at the moment with Brett, where he's preparing for his third Olympics in Paris this summer. It was so interesting to catch up with him on his incredible career, and he shares so many amazing insights just from the amount of experience that he's gained over preparing for 3 Olympic cycles.
I'm really excited to hear this conversation because, well, firstly, Brett is our first international guest. So that's really cool. And I feel like maybe there's a different perspective there, hearing from an Australian athlete, and super cool how he's now going to his third Olympics. So very interesting to hear how his career has developed and also how those Olympic experiences are different from each other. But you had this conversation in Font Romeu where you still are training. How is everything going?
Yeah, it's going really well. It has gone so quickly. I can't believe I've been here for a month now. So I've got 12 days left. I will be very, very sad to leave the incredible trails, the mountains and the almond croissant, which have been a highlight of pretty much every day.
How many have you consumed?
I have lost count. They are very good, but yeah, it's just such a brilliant place to train, and hence why Brett has come all the way from Australia to Font Romeu to do his marathon prep. And actually a few of the Aussie women are out here as well preparing for Paris. So I think that's just testament to what incredible setup it is here. And it is one of those things that every run I go on, I just have to pinch myself that I'm getting to experience that and just come to these incredible places to run, and with incredible people as well.
Well, I am glad you are having such a good time. But when you do eventually arrive home, it will be good to see you because it has been so long, and can't wait to run with you again.
Yes, I am looking forward to that, being reunited with everyone. It's actually quite weird now because for the last month I've had this really big group out. A few people from home, Matt, Ross, and a few others who have kind of dipped in and out. And it's been really cool running with everyone, and they've all now gone home. So it's basically just me and Charlie left, and actually I had my longest long run of the block on Saturday, and that was the first time that I didn't have company. So the long run before that, we actually had this really big group, and it was kind of a mix of people who knew so everyone knew someone, but not everyone knew everyone. We ended up going round with, there was a couple of guys from the Chilean national team who are out training here for Paris, a Dutch guy, us lot, Brett was there. So it was a really fun mix, and it was just one of those really cool experiences where you kind of look around at the people around you and think, wow, like these amazing athletes from all walks of life, and you just all come together and do this long run. Something that's so special about running that you can do that. So that was really, really fun. And then this week I had a bit of a contrast because it was just Charlie on the bike, and we had pretty much the first day of really bad weather on a run session. So I had 2 hours 45 in an absolutely biblical thunderstorm, and I think it can only be described as character building. I mean, it was absolutely, I was just drenched from the first 5 minutes. We had hailstones, and quite honestly, I got 3 miles in and I said to Charlie, I was like, I think I'm going to do my long run tomorrow. I just cannot imagine doing 24 more miles. I ended up doing just over 27 miles in total. But at mile 3, I was thinking, I've got 24 miles in this. And it was not a nice thought. But having said that, I then, a few miles later, pulled myself together and thought, well, by this time I'd spent kind of 8 miles deliberating whether I'm going to continue my long run or not. At which point I was so far in, I was like, well, I've got to continue. So I did it. And it was actually a very good long run. I think it's probably, in a way, one of the best runs I've done out here, just because it was so mentally tough to get through. But it ended up being quite good.
Yeah, I mean, it's typical, isn't it? After having such an amazing experience running with all those people, and then there's just one thing that's got to like bring you back to reality, give you some perspective that things aren't always so fun when you're running. But yeah, I think maybe your expectations were lowered during the biblical rain, that it ended up being such a good run for you in the end. You could push through those thoughts of thinking you couldn't do it. So well done.
And hopefully that will be the last thunderstorm I have to run in, but we will see. But anyway, how has your week of training been?
Yeah, my week of training wasn't exactly as planned, to be honest. So I think the last time we caught up on like how training was going and everything, and we were talking about my track sessions, and I was saying, you know, it was important that maybe now I need to focus on reducing my mileage a bit as the intensity is a bit higher, just so I could recover from those sessions better and go into them a bit fresher. But I think that decision was perhaps made a little bit too late because a few days later my legs had just been so fatigued and I didn't really know what was wrong. I'd had some blood test results done which showed I had high iron, but I didn't know if that necessarily explained everything I was feeling. So I made some changes there. Spoke to Dr. Georgie Broomvels, who we had on the pod, and recommend listening to that episode if you haven't, because she is full of so much useful knowledge. But yeah, spoke to her about my blood test results and just how I'd been feeling, and she was just so helpful, honestly. That girl has so many useful tips, and she just really reassured me that looking at some of my training data, that I wasn't overtrained, I was kind of worried, like, have I been doing too much and all of this. She was like, you're not showing any signs of overtraining. So I was like, okay, that's good. She was like, your body's so used to high volume that it's not that, and like you are healthy, it's just your legs perhaps like haven't recovered from that higher intensity, and it, you know, reducing the mileage around it is the right thing to do, but I just probably caught it a bit late where my legs were just, not recovered from it. And what's actually so interesting is I started looking at my heart rate data, comparing sessions I do in the park to sessions I do on the track, and my max heart rate is like 10 beats per minute higher on the track, even though the reps are shorter, which shows you how much more intense it is. And so quite rightly, even if you're doing less on the track, it might count for more that your body's gone through. So it just takes a little bit more out of you, which makes sense. So as a result of that, I took a couple days off, and then I just was doing like short, easy runs, gradually building back up again. And now I feel really good. So I'm glad I kind of caught it there and I was sensible about it. And Georgie really reassured me that there's nothing seriously wrong. So yeah, I'm feeling excited now, ready to go again. There's nothing like a little blip in training to like realize how much running means to you and how much you just want to get back to training. It's like you don't know what you have till it's gone, which sounds so dramatic because I was literally not running for like 2 days. But it is one of those things that you're just so excited to get running again when you feel good. So I'm glad I am feeling good again.
Good, I'm glad you are back. And yeah, I totally know what you mean. I feel like if I don't start my day with my normal routine of running, the rest of my day can't start. And it's like I need that first step to kick it off. But I think that's such an interesting and actually just really helpful insight about listening to your body. And you say you caught it late, but actually you've had a couple of rest days and you're back, which in the grand scheme of things is, I know those 2 days probably felt very long, but it's nothing. And it just shows, I think, how in tune you are with your body, and actually just by listening to it, you can catch these things really early instead of trying to push through it and thinking, oh, I'm just going to dig myself out of this hole. It is sometimes really important to just stop, and those 2 days are going to get you back so much quicker than forcing it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think as runners, you do become very in tune with how you feel physically, and running when my legs just hurt so much all the time just became unenjoyable, and I was like, you know what, I just need to have a couple of days off because this isn't right. So yeah, I am glad I made that decision.
So will it be back to the track?
It will be. I am going to just do like a couple easier sessions just to get my legs ticking over this week, and then hopefully I will head back to the track next week. I'm looking forward to it, which is something I thought I'd never say.
Okay, well that's great news, and look forward to hearing more track updates soon. But shall we catch up with Brett now?
Let's do it.
Brett, thanks so much for joining us for 5 Miles Easy out here in Font Romeu, where we are both training and preparing for Paris Olympics. Very excited to have you on the pod.
Thank you.
The first question we ask all our guests is, what is your why for running?
Because I want to find out how good I can be, and I don't want to have any regrets at the end of my career. So I just want to see where my limits are, see how much I could have done, and see what my full potential is.
That's awesome. I can so relate to that. It's very similar to mine. I think each like day, each training block, I just want to kind of see what my body's got. And it's such an exciting journey. But you have had such a long career, a long time exploring your limits and pushing those boundaries and just getting better and better. So I want to take it right back to how running started for you. How did you get into it? And I know you were very good as a junior, so kind of how did that process happen?
Yeah, so I played soccer or football, as you guys would call it, as a kid in kind of primary school, and I was always like the fit kid just from that, and would make like the school cross country team and enjoyed it. Then I had a year 6 teacher who kind of saw a little bit of running talent in me, I guess, and started taking me to cross country races and like doing them kind of on the weekend or after school, and really helped me. And so like from there, just kind of sparked an interest, made my first team to go to nationals, to the Australian like under 12 championships, I think it was. And then I was like, yeah, I want to keep doing this. I love doing it. And I was lucky enough to fall into like a really good junior coach who pretty much just made this like fun environment. Like I remember mostly we'd do like games and drills and relays and stuff, but I didn't realize it at the time, but like he was like setting me up to be a good runner. Like I was doing drills, I was doing like some core and plyometrics and all this stuff, but like I was just having fun with my friends, and that just definitely like, I don't know, made me interested, but at the same time was giving me all like the qualities I needed, I think, to be a good runner, and kind of then just started progressing through the junior ranks and turned into, being okay at it.
Well, it's so important to make it fun, I think, especially at that age, because I was going to say, it's, as we both know, as much as we love elite sport and love what we do, it is an intense environment. And I think whenever I meet people like you who have been in it from such a young age, for me it's been so different because I've come into it so late, and I've had like a completely different life beforehand. And when I meet people who have had such a long running career, I think like, wow, that intensity for so long must be challenging at times, and especially in your kind of teens, early 20s, I can imagine when a lot of your friends are going out partying, you must have been training pretty hard.
Yeah, I definitely was, but I think I had some pretty supportive friends. Like I guess like when everyone was like kind of going out and partying a little bit, but they knew I was like kind of the runner, and like they would kind of ask me to come out, and I'd be like, I can't go train in the morning, and they're like, yeah, no worries. Like they were very supportive like that, like they weren't too pressuring. But then I think as well, just with having good training group people around me, like they became my friends as well. So doing it for so long at like a intensity and high level, like having people that you like being around makes it so much easier. Like even like coming up here, like it's just like running, probably getting a little bit stale in Melbourne. I come to Font Romeu and I was like, I love running. Like it's just so fun being out here on the trails, and it's just such a nice place to go.
Yeah, and as we've seen out here, it's such a social thing as well, and surrounding ourselves with all the other people who are out here and going on group runs. On a long run the other day, there was such a big group of us, and you're right, I was going around, I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
We're just surrounded by people who also love it and are incredible runners.
Yeah, it was cool.
Really
like
cool.
On Sunday, like I jumped in on your long run, someone jumped in on mine, a couple people jumped in on his, and then all of a sudden we've got like a group of 10 people running together. And it was good, yeah.
So did you always have your sights set on a pro career, or like what age did you realise, okay, I'm not just a good youngster, I can actually make a living from this?
I think so I went to World Juniors for the 1500, which like is crazy to think now that I used to do 1500s and now I'm doing the marathon. And if you had to put me on the start line of 1500 right now, I don't even know if my body could get through it. Like it just feels so hard. But so that would have been, I was probably 18, 19 and just finished school and didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like I didn't want to go to uni straight away. I was pretty keen on like putting in effort into running. So I had a little group in Canberra that I was training with, and they were like kind of they were pretty high level runners, like would go to nationals. Like one guy made the Olympics actually for the marathon, but they were also working at the same time and I wasn't. So it was like a bit of a weird situation where I was like, I just wait around all day to train with them, and it wasn't the best, I don't know, probably environment, because I was just pretty bored, to be honest, and like wasn't doing much in my life apart from running. But yeah, I knew then like I wanted to really go at it. And then so Ryan Gregson, who is one of my good friends and who I trained with as a kid, so I was about 21 at this time, he told me he was moving to Melbourne to train with Melbourne Track Club, which is my group now. And he said, if you want to come down, at first he said, could you come down and help me settle in, just like spend a few weeks with me while I'm moving there? And I said, yeah, no worries. And then he said, if you like it, you can live with me and train with the group. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Like before even trying it out, I was like, if I want to be as good as I can, like that's what I need to do. Like I could see where I wanted to be, and that was like the best way to get there. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going head in. Like I said, I don't want to have any regrets. I knew if I stayed in Canberra, I'd be like kind of like, oh, what if I had done this? So I was like, yeah, let's move in. And very quickly, like that's, I guess, when I became a professional athlete, had a little sponsorship, and then started coming to Europe during the track season and actually made world champs in my first, like 6 months later, qualified for world champs.
Wow.
It was a quick like transition.
That's crazy. And when did you sign with Nike?
So I signed with Nike in 2017. So I was with New Balance for a few years before that.
I mean, that's such a bold move to do that at 21 and take the plunge, but that is why you are where you are now, because you were so committed.
Yeah, I think there's just like, I've always like, for better or worse, taken risks and thought like, you know what, like let's just see what happens. Like sometimes it doesn't work out, sometimes you end up injured or you end up whatever, but that one I was like, you know what, I have to do it. And I was Collis Birmingham, who's now assistant coach of Melbourne Track Club, you met the other day, he was running at the time too. So I was living with him and Ryan, and I just literally was like, I just followed them around, whatever they did I was doing. And like it's funny because like I see like new kids come into the group sometimes and they like think they know what they're doing and like don't listen to anyone. I was like, oh, that wasn't me. I was just like, whatever they were doing, like they're the best, that's where I want to be, I'm just copying them. I just learned so much from both of them and like definitely just pushed my career forward.
What do you think has kept you in it so long?
Like definitely like Melbourne Track Club, most of them are my best mates, so it definitely has helped. Like I love going on runs with them, and it's just like, it's like fun, and like everyone's been running so well. Like my coach has a house in London. When everyone's running well and pushing each other, training together, like it's just like such a good feeling, like when the whole group's running well, and it's something that I love. So it's, doing that's kind of kept me going, I think.
There is kind of a weird, my training partner Matt and I were talking about it the other day, that camaraderie, and there's kind of a next level of friendship when you're in a group training really hard together and you're kind of all going through, I think especially in marathon training, you go through those dips and you kind of can judge each other, and you know when someone's going through a bit of a dip and you help them out of it, and then the next person, a couple of miles later, the next person will be in it. And it's almost from that like group suffering, there does become this really amazing bond between training partners. And I think especially in the marathon, it's
definitely like when you're training with someone and like you're struggling, they're helping you, or they're struggling, you're helping them. Like it's just like, it's more than like, it's kind of putting the ego aside and like wanting to do it together. And I think that's just, it definitely makes that good bond.
And what do you think, I mean, you must have had so many highs and so many lows about your long career, but what do you think the highest and lowest has been so far?
The highest, like definitely I think would be, probably got 2, maybe 3, I don't know, I can't narrow it down. But so most recent one was when I broke the Australian marathon record. Like I think that was something I'd set my sights on for a long time. Like I remember when I was very, very young, like probably maybe about 20, probably Ryan actually saying to me like that he thought I could break the Australian record in the marathon. Like, and this is like, I'm so far away from doing it at the time, but if for some reason he just thought that I was maybe better than him on a long run, so he thought I could do it, and that just stuck in my head. And I was like, all right, that's something I have to do one day. For some other reason, when I was a kid, I got running sub 60 for a half marathon in my head, and I did that. So that was like, and that was a bit of a shock too. Like when I went to do it, and I won the race, did not think I'd be running that fast, and like it was just kind of like a magical day. And then probably making the final of the 5K at the Rio Olympics was another one. And also that was because I'd probably been struggling a little bit that season, and then kind of just like got it right on the day. But the lows like would have to be some injuries. Like I know 2016, like when I say it's one of my highs, 6 months later, like I had a stress fracture in my femur that it wouldn't heal. Like I pretty much didn't run for like 4 or 5 months because it just wouldn't heal. So it's, and like kind of you're getting ready for the next year, like, all right, I want to go better. And then just to then crash and spend, a lot of time away from running was probably not a very enjoyable time.
Yeah, that's hard after such a big
Yeah.
high as well. The Australian record, so that's 2:07.
31.
Oh my God, that is just mind blowing. How did it feel to do that?
Yeah, it was funny because like I'd kind of had like a few attempts, like the way I've run a lot of my marathons, I kind of go around that pace. Just with what the pace groups are, usually they're kind of around that 2:07 pace. And then I was having these troubles with stitches and like having some bad races, like a DNF'd a couple of races. And for a while, I was like, maybe marathoning's not for me. Like I could nail half, but I just couldn't convert it. And then I kind of got it pretty right at London in October. It was 2022 when they ran it in October. And I was like, okay, like I'm a little get on top of the stitch thing right now. Maybe I can go again. So I tried again 9 weeks later at Fukuoka, which was in Japan. And I ran 2:07:31. And I was just like, first thing was just like a relief. It was just like, I think I built it up so much, and like people start talking about that I was going for the Australian record, and like I would talk about it too. Like I kind of played into it a little bit, but then for this one, like I just kind of didn't say anything, just shut up about it, and then no one really talked about it, and then did it. And I was like, okay, finally, like I can just stop worrying about that. Like it's done now. I can just think about running good marathons. Like it's not about a time anymore. It's just about being the best athlete I can.
And 9 weeks after London.
Yeah, it was a quick turnaround. And to be honest, like I felt, it was funny, like I finished London and I was like, I feel all right, but I think I could warm down. And I ran like 100 meters, like I can't warm down. Like my body's not that good. But I had a couple more days in London and I jogged and I was like, okay, I actually don't feel too bad. I kind of pulled up pretty well, flew back home, started training. But I reckon maybe like 4 or 5 weeks after London, I got really tired. And I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe this is not going to work out. Like maybe I've tried too hard to do this, and it was only like maybe the week or so before Fukuoka that I was like, I started to actually feel all right again, and I just kind of like came out of it and it was good. But that's why I think you can't like replicate training blocks as well, because like for me the best thing to do is go and run a marathon, feel not very good, and then run 9 weeks later. But like that's not practical. So it's just so it's kind of when marathon blocks aren't going that well for me, when I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like not every marathon block has to be exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to remember, I think it's very easy to look at that training block in isolation and actually forget about all the other work that you've done over the last, well, in your case, a lot of years.
Yeah.
That is backing up in each marathon. I kind of feel like I gained so much from the race. Yeah. Just that experience of being in it, which you can't replicate in training.
You can't. And it's just like, you can't replicate it, because like, what if like some days you're feeling tired, but then the next block when you're doing it, you're feeling good, but then you'd run in the same times, but like maybe you're getting more out of the one where you're feeling tired. So it's like, I think you just have to like not look at it too. Like I try not to look at the sessions too much and just kind of try to get a good block of training, and usually you'll end up in pretty good shape.
So going into, when you did run the Australian record, going into that race, were you confident that you were going to do it?
So if I go back to London before it, so I kept having these stitch problems, and the days before the race I was having like, I'll call them nightmares about getting a stitch, and about DNFing, and I was just like, I'm not like focusing on the race right now, like I'm not focused on performance, all I'm thinking about is getting my stitch, or like hopefully not getting it. Got it in London, and then just this thought came into my head of doing this breathing that my like high school coach had told me to do, whereas like I kind of like take 2 breaths in, 1 breath out, and just change my breathing pattern. And so I did it, and then my stitch went away, and I was like, hang on, what's going on here? And then so I'm like, okay, I've like figured this out. So going into the next one, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get the stitch, but I know exactly what to do. And so as soon as I get the stitch, do that, and I'll get rid of it, and I'll be good to go. And so I knew if I could do that, get rid of it, I would run a fast time, which I thought would be a sub 2:08. So I was confident that if it worked again, I would run a good time.
Wow, that's so powerful, that just that thought that you had.
And it's so
in the
weird.
race.
It's because like I'd never thought about it before the races. Any other time I had a stitch, never thought, like when I'm trying to think of how to get rid of a stitch, and then it just popped into my head, and I was like, all right, let's just try it. And then it was like someone literally would have been 15 years ago that he would have told me.
That's crazy. Do you think any part of that is the psychological element of knowing that you can deal with it?
definitely. Yeah. So I think just having that plan as well of going like that, it was like an acceptance thing going, okay, I'm going to get the stitch. That's fine. But now I have a plan of what to do. Where the other times it's like, all right, I got a stitch. Like, what do I do? Like, all right, I try this. No, it's not working. I'm losing pace. And like, it was panic would start setting in. And so like, if anything, it's just making it worse. Where this time it's like, all right, let's just do that. Spend a couple of K just relaxing. Like, might lose a few seconds here, but it's fine because then I'll be gone. I can go again. And that's exactly what happened.
I think that's so useful in the marathon for so many things. Just a level of, it's 26.2 miles. Bad things are going to happen.
Yeah.
You're not going to feel incredible every single mile.
Exactly.
And accepting that the dips are going to come and just having a method to deal with them and get out of it. Because as you say, the other option is it takes you by surprise.
Yeah.
And then you tense up and then it makes everything worse.
I write in my notes kind of like a bit of a plan or like things to think about in the race. And like, that's exactly what I wrote. I'm like, this is going to happen, but that's okay. And this is what you do. And so just having that plan and then being like, it's like, I'm going to be in a lot of pain, but like, that's what you're trying to do. Like, you're trying to see how much pain you can take and how fast you can run with that pain. So I think just having those things and like accepting them beforehand was just like a good thing for me.
How fast we can run with the pain. I love it.
Yeah, I don't know. For something about me, it's like, it's all right, let's see how much pain I can put myself in while still moving forward quickly.
Yeah.
I think like that's, for me, is what like I feel like gets me a good performance, like, because it's always going to hurt, but you want to be hurting and also running fast, so because then you like finding your max. Yeah.
It's time to thank our sponsor for this episode, Veloforte.
Now, as our listeners will know by now, we are both big fans of using the Veloforte products in our training. And I have to say, Steph, I had a really hard session today, and all I could think about in those last couple of reps was having a malto shake at the end. The cold cinnamon and vanilla shake at the end of a hard session just hits differently.
Oh, it tastes so good, doesn't it? I've been absolutely loving the energy chews. They're a great alternative to gels, and I've been using them on those longer runs, especially in my training for 2 Oceans. They came in very handy and they're so delicious. I love the apple and cinnamon flavour.
And the best bit is, because Veloforte uses only real food ingredients and nothing artificial, you can trust what you're putting in your body, and it digests so much better to synthetic alternatives.
And you can understand every ingredient on the back, which is not always the case with these types of products.
Thanks to Veloforte for supporting this podcast. And if you would like 30% off the Veloforte products, head to veloforte.com and use the code 5miles at checkout.
So Paris, we're 6 weeks out. What has this build-up looked like? Has it been, well, it's obviously not super similar to your Australian record because you've got longer than 9 weeks since your last marathon for a start. But are you changing anything, or is it kind of quite similar to what you've done before?
Yeah, I don't think my coach would let me run a marathon 9 weeks before every marathon, but I thought it was the way for a while. But yeah, obviously with Paris being hillier, running a bit more on hills, did some heat training as well in Melbourne, trying to do a little bit up here too. Been running in tracksuit, which is the nicest thing. Yeah, but to be honest, I just want to get good training in, Ks, get as fit as possible. Like, I know you can train on hills, do heat training, but being as fit as possible is probably the number one priority.
Yeah, exactly, and that will allow you to tackle the hills. And
exactly.
Come out.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if I can
well.
get up a 5-minute hill really good, but if I'm not fit, it doesn't matter. If I'm already hurting by the time I get to the bottom of the hill, it doesn't matter. So.
And how did you actually qualify? Because you're actually our first international guest
really?
on 5 Miles Easy. So it'd be interesting to hear a bit about, like, what is the process for Australia?
Yeah, well, Australia has, because the marathon's different, but like our track athletes have a completely different system to you. Like with your trials being on the last weekend of the thing, our trials for the track is on in April. So which kind of like throws a few spanner in the works, because you can pick people then, but they might be running terrible in 2 months' time. So there's a lot of discretion in our policy. So for me, I actually qualified when I ran 2:07:31, which was only like a couple of weeks into the period being open. So I qualified a long time ago, but then I didn't get picked until about 3 weeks ago. So they just picked the team, I think like middle of May, and they just pick the 3 people they think will run the best in the time. So it's time goes into it, past performances, and who they think will run the best on the day.
So how did you plan your year?
Well, to be honest, I knew I was in a pretty good position because I was the fastest, and then there was only one other guy, Pat Tinnan, qualified. And then there was Liam Adams, who was in on rankings, but then the next guy wasn't in on rankings, and I knew I couldn't really be kicked out. So,
Okay.
but the last few months, like I was in pretty good position. So I knew, and like Athletics Australia were pretty good where they told me, like they didn't tell me I'd be selected, but like I could plan my trip overseas and like they would support and tell me what was going on.
Yeah, and you've now come out to Font.
Yeah.
Why have you come all this way from
Yeah.
Australia?
Well, yeah. There's a few ways I could have done it. Like I could have stayed in Australia, trained, but it's winter, so it would have been cold. And then coming here, I just would have been shocked. I think when I got into some hot weather. So I thought the best thing to do is get over the travel, get used to the climate, and train up here. I actually came to Font Romeu in 2013. Hadn't been back since. But I really liked it when I was here. So I don't know. Just don't know why I decided to come to Font Romeu, but a few people said it in my group, and I was like, yeah, I'm keen. So
it's a cool place to train.
I'm glad I came here. Like, yeah, as soon as I was actually like struggling with a bit of a pelvis injury, like osteitis pubis I had the last couple of months, and it's the day I got here, I swear it just went away. Like,
it's the Font magic.
Yeah, it is. Like I wasn't really enjoying my running. Like I was just like having these, every run was like painful and I was sore all the time, and then got here and I was like, wow. Like I think I feel good again. Like I started having good sessions again, just like enjoying the run. So yeah, I'm glad I came.
I think sometimes just change of scenery can
Definitely,
be so powerful and such a good reset.
Yeah.
And just, up here can focus so much on recovery and doing all the right things and getting the rehab in. It's a really good place. This is your third Olympic build-up, which is just insane. What would you say you've learned from the other two, which you're taking into this one? What are like the most important lessons you've taken away?
Sorry, Tokyo was a different kind of Olympics. I think just with it being in during COVID, it just made it a bit funny. But yeah, I don't know. Like I think I just try to treat it as another race. Like I think we do put a lot of pressure on it because it's the Olympics, and but when you go to London Marathon, you want to run your best there too. Like everywhere you go, you want to run your best. So I think it's very easy to then be thinking, get it in your head, like this is more important. But I try to just go back and go like, nah, it's just another race. Like let's just treat it like another race, like how I would, because I train as hard as I can. I race as hard as I can. Like I can't do any more. So I just think if I just treat it like I do for a normal race, then I just will hopefully turn up in good shape.
So did you, for Rio and Tokyo, would you say you felt any different standing on that start?
Oh, you definitely do though, I think more, just like the more people care. Like I'd always been surrounded by Olympians. So for me, I was like, yeah, like in 2016, I was like, yeah, I'll go to the Olympics this year. Like I just had kind of accepted it. And then I remember I got a message. I actually didn't go to the awards thing, like when they were announcing the team, because I didn't think I was going to be selected. And I got a message like, hey, you just got selected for the Olympics. And I was just like, oh, what? And then I was kind of getting a bit emotional. I'm like, what's going on here? I knew I was going to go, but then all of a sudden I was getting a little bit emotional. And then you start getting messages from people you went to primary school with, and people you've met a couple of times, messaging, and it becomes such a big deal. So for that, it's so different. You got your high school friend watching you on TV. So it's definitely different in that, but it is just another race.
How do you deal with that in terms of how do you keep your mind so calm and treat it like another race and not let it get to you when you do have everyone else around you hyping it and asking questions?
I think my personality a little bit is I'm pretty calm. I don't really get that nervous or anything like that. So I probably handle it a bit better than a lot of other people. So yeah, I think I'm lucky like that. I know it could definitely get overwhelming for many people, but yeah, I just it's just what I want to do. So it's if I know you're finally there and it can get a little bit exciting, but this is what I've trained for years. So it's a process for me.
It sounds like as well that you're really kind of doing it for you.
Yeah.
And not letting it become for other people all these other people who are there watching you and encouraging you.
Yeah, it is that. But I'd say the Olympics is the only one where probably you do it a little bit more for other people. If it was something else, right now, I'm dealing with a little bit of a niggle, and it's if it wasn't the Olympics, I wouldn't care about other people missing out because of other people, where this one's I want to go because everyone else, my family wants to go, and I do feel that pressure a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's me, it's my journey.
Yeah, and as you say, you at all times are doing as much as you can to make whichever race you're aiming for.
And people don't care. At the last Olympics, I didn't have a very good run, and something I was embarrassed with. But then the amount of supportive messages of people that are proud of you, they're just proud of you no matter what. So it doesn't matter. You put extra pressure on yourself, and you're thinking I have to perform well, I have to do this. It's nah, they don't care. They're proud of you no matter what you do.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, everyone has their own lives.
Yes, exactly.
And you're right. Of course, they care for you, but I think people don't care. You're not ruining anyone else's life.
No, you're not. You feel like you are, but it's like, no, they're like,
want.
no, like, you know what, I'm playing squash on the weekend. I care more about that than you. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah.
My sports psychologist said something to me when I was trying to qualify for Paris, and I had a really badly timed injury basically when I was just trying to qualify, and it wasn't a bad injury, it was just a bit of tendonitis, but like hit at the worst possible time. And I was going through all of this emotion around like, oh, people have worked so hard to get me to this point and I've become so close, you know, I've run the qualifying time. Like all I have to do is prove fitness. And now I'm at the stage where I don't think I'm gonna make it. And I was really kind of getting into this cycle of beating myself up over it and thinking, oh, I've like let so many people down. And she was like, okay, if you flip around, if you make the team, like how long do you think other people are gonna be dining out on your success? It's not going to be that long. I hate to break it. And I was like, that's such a good point.
I know. Everyone does it to themselves and like thinks they're kind of the main character a little bit, but it's just like, nah, people are just supportive and it doesn't really change their day either way. Like they just want you to be happy, but they'll be supportive if you're not too.
Yeah. Do you actively train your mind?
So I'd say I do like a bit of meditation and stuff like that, but just like myself, like I sometimes do it through some apps and stuff, but not like I don't see it as like a sports psych or anything, but I'm very interested in it and I read a lot about it. But everything I've done has just been kind of self-taught, I think.
What kind of things do you read?
Just like about like either like sports psychologists, like what they talk about or what they say, or like I listen to podcasts with them.
Yeah, it is. I love a good sports podcast. You get so much from it. And I do think the marathon is such a mental game.
Yeah.
And it comes down to it. So for Paris, what are your goals?
Yeah, like the marathon's tricky and it's like I always feel like the marathon, it's like you against you first, and then once you get into the later stages, then you can try to beat the people around you, because you are going to have rough patches and you do have to listen to your body for a good 85% of the race before you can do that. I haven't really thought about like a placing. Like I kind of said it before, like I'm always like a process person. So for me, it's like having a process of ticking off my tasks during the race and ticking them off as best as I can. And I think if I can do that, a good performance comes, but I'm not sure what that looks like in the end.
Yeah, I suppose going into any race, that's such a good strategy because you never know what other people are going to do around you.
Yeah, exactly.
I think even more so in a major championship.
Yeah.
And Paris, that's such a different course. It could be anyone's race.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the course will bring it hopefully closer together, I think. And then if the people who nail it on the day will have good runs, I'm sure people are going to have shockers too. So if you can prepare well, run well on the day, like a high finish is very possible.
So preparing for your third Olympics, as we said, Oceania record. I mean, you just had like so many incredible performances. You've been at such high level for so long. What would you say the key things are that have got you there? Like, what are your non-negotiables that you stuck to throughout your career that you think contribute to your success?
Well, a big one I reckon I've touched on a couple of times is having people around you that you enjoy being around. I think that always makes it easy. And also just having a good routine. I think I'm very strict on kind of like training at like 9:30. 5:30 in the afternoon, so like do that every day. I think that's just for me like sets up my priorities. Like I have that fixed, and then whatever else I have to do in my life goes around that. Like I very, very rarely change my run times for something. Like I'm very strict on that, and I think that's just kind of like being a good thing for me. And that's like kind of like a big, I think Melbourne Track Club thing is like that started when I joined the group. Like there was a guy that used to ride the bike, his name was Gary, and he was like, he would start counting down like the seconds to 9:30, and like everyone has to be ready and go, and that kind of like that started that discipline of routine and like starting on time. But like it's just I think that's just been a good thing for me.
Do you ever find it hard when you get dragged in different directions?
A little bit, yeah. If I like go on a holiday or something like that, and I'm like even like I do like lots of activations and stuff. If I'm like being a bit lazy and I'm just like, I feel so bad, like not mentally, like my body just feels bad, and I'm like, I don't enjoy my running, and so I like to kind of have that routine. It makes me feel good, and then I can enjoy the rest of my day.
That's so good that you know exactly what works for you and stick to it.
Yeah.
So Paris is my first Olympics. At the moment I'm in just the excited stage. The nerves haven't hit.
Yeah.
But my coach keeps talking about kind of the environment when I'm there and how kind of overwhelming it might be, and trying to prepare me for it. So as someone who has done this 2 times before, can you give me some tips that you wish you'd known going into Rio?
Yeah, I think enjoy it, definitely. Like it'd suck to in 10 years like be like, oh, what was the Olympics like? And I was like, oh, you know, I didn't even do anything. Like I just like went there, raced, and like didn't see anything. Like I think when I went to Rio, like I would go out, like see a couple of races, or like look at what's in the village, and have like a bit of a time. Like obviously the race is the most important thing, but like I assume you're probably going to get there 5 or so days before the race, so it's not like you have to be like switched on straight away. So I think enjoy it a little bit and sit and see what's going on, and it's supposed to be special. So I think like let it be special.
That's such a good tip. I love it. Well, I can't wait to see you there in 6 weeks.
Yes.
Brett, thanks so much for coming on the pod and sharing all your incredible tips, training insights, and good luck with the rest of the build-up.
Yeah, thank you very much. You too.
Thanks for joining us for 5 Miles Easy.